Hi guys. Kind of had some technical difficulty. Not sure if anybody's seeing us. So today's segment is about company culture. This is something that's really close to both me and Gail. So we've committed to doing these segments every day at 12:30 now p.m. To share our advice and thoughts and experiences to help as many organizations we can. So today we want to take a moment and talk about company culture, just because a lot of companies are going through this right now, where now it's remote. A lot of companies are facing the remote challenge, and now you're scrambling and you're trying to build your company culture from scratch because what worked in the office may not necessarily work when you're remote. So both Gail and I are passionate about company culture, and we've seen a lot of things that are floating around on LinkedIn. So we wanted to take a moment and talk about the do's and don'ts and actually how to really build company culture. Some of the things we were seeing, maybe we were like shaking hence how this segment came to be. So we're going to talk about what you should be doing when it comes to building company culture. What are the things that you need to pay attention to and consider and take a look at, and some of the things maybe you shouldn't be doing. But let's dive right into it because we had some technical difficulties, so we lost a little bit of 8 minutes. But Gil, why don't we start with you? You start the conversation on company culture and why it's so important now than it maybe was even before this whole coronavirus situation crisis that we're in.
Absolutely. So first, I always like to level set and give my own personal definition of culture, because everybody has their own definition, their own frame, their own perspective. And one of the risks that I do find with culture is that when it isn't framed and when it isn't defined with a mutual definition, people throw whatever they want into it. And that's one of the risks of culture, is that people just defer to other things, call it culture, and then throw up their hands on whether or not they can actually do anything about it. So for me, culture is around the language that is used within an organization, the way decisions are made, the types of decisions that are made, the comfort level with risk, the reward structures. And ultimately, the common thread when it comes to culture that boils it all down to is behaviors. It is the way people interact with one another and the way that they expect each other to interact. And one of the reasons that this is so difficult for a lot of organizations right now is that under this stress, especially those organizations going remote, is that people aren't sure how to act. This is a new situation. These requires new behaviors. And so one of the things about culture for me that has always been true is that it gets created by leadership values. Whatever leadership believes in, those are the decisions they're actually going to make, regardless of whatever's on the wall or on the business card or anything. It's what leaders actually believe in right now. So when you see some leaders who are taking zero salary so that they can lay off as few people as possible, and then other leaders who are forcing their people into work even when it's not an essential service, those are their values talking. And ultimately, that's what drives the culture of the organization. But most organizations are in something new right now, and they need to be a bit more intentional about how that's driven, because there was the old way of how that was driven and the old thoughts, having common spaces, common lunches, common areas that we can no longer rely on. So it has to be a lot more intentional now in deciding what is the culture that you want to have through this crisis and beyond.
I wanted just to add on something you said. I think you said it earlier before we had this technical difficulty, ping pong tables. And, it's true, though, where a lot of companies, a lot of startups are known for this. And then we saw this whole shift where so many other companies started adopting to the startup culture. So startup cultures wanted to be hip and cool to attract talent. Like, look at us. We got ping pong tables. We got a game room. We got this.
We have a beer tap.
Yeah. But the thing was, what I recognized with that was that it wasn't inclusive. Meaning that, okay, I'm a female. I'm actually into ping pongs and I may like it. I know a lot of females that are not into it. So now you've just left out a whole chunk of group that probably not into ping pongs or beer
I
chat.
suck at ping pong.
Right, but like little things, right? So even
Absolutely. No,
now,
you make a really great point about the
and
inclusion.
even now, what I'm seeing is I'm going to use this, and again, we can interchange these things. But happy hour, I'm Sikh. I don't drink. I may not drink. What if the people who don't drink, right? Because when I hear happy hour, I hear this is what resonates with me. Happy hour, cheap drinks, right? So even the terminology can throw someone off. They're like, well, happy hour, I don't drink. Because I've seen posts where people on LinkedIn, happy hour, every single person had a drink in their hand, wine, beer, whatever it was, right? So that's not inclusive now because there are a chunk of people that don't drink for various different reasons.
It's interesting you say that, actually, because at the organization I used to work for, they used to like to have drinks on Fridays. I don't drink either. And there were a few of us who didn't drink, but the way it was done was extremely inclusive. But the way
Yeah,
it
so
was done, it was a
people listening,
collective
right?
and not forced on anybody. And so if it's yeah, everybody has to come, or you're expected to, or there's peer pressure to come to a happy hour where it hasn't been done right, you could feel very excluded, very uncomfortable in that situation. You make a really good point around that.
Yeah. And even with the ping pongs and all that stuff, right? What I call free lunches, free this, and all that stuff, I call that the materialistic of the relationship. So picture dating. First thing that attracts us to somebody is looks, right? And you know the saying, right? Looks fade away. Materialistic things eventually fade away, and we keep seeing go into a relationship are beyond the materialistic things, right? So the looks fade away, and all that other materialistic thing. What really keeps you there is how someone's making you feel in
Yeah,
a relationship. That's actually the
absolutely.
same concept to building a company culture. You know, having a great composition package or free lunches or perks and all that stuff, those are materialistic things. Those are perks. That's not your culture. Culture, if I had to sum it up, what culture is, it's actually how your employees feel every single day at work. It's a emotion, it's a feeling. And that's how I've always looked at company culture. That's how you build culture. And the only way you're going to build a good culture, you need to ask your employees. It's
Absolutely.
as simple as that. It's not you as a leader think culture should be. It's not what managers think the culture should be. It's not what your employees think the culture should be. You know, if you're you a little bit still have a vision. But when you start to grow, you add more employees. Employees are what going to dictate what the culture should be. And I think this is where a lot of people are lacking is not feeling to understand what the employee wants. So, for example, we were assisting one client of ours who had a really bad culture. And so we did some we talked to employees, we did some research. You know what we learned was that the employees actually one thing the biggest thing we learned was the employees didn't want any events on their time. They want all company events to happen on company time. Behind that was they're like, well, why are we taking time off from our personal lives to go to a company event? Was the company had a toxic work environment. The other thing we learned was the employees didn't care if the company was buying them lunches or anything. The biggest thing they cared was how they're being treated. They didn't like how they were being treated. They didn't like the fact that there was cameras where they're being watched. If you took a 5-minute extra break, you were being yelled at, right? We had to start time, say 9 to 5. We didn't have flexibility little bit coming in or work from home because it was an office job, right? So the thing was you got to talk to your employees and then you learn things and that's how you pivot. I found that too many companies either rely on HR culture, your biggest champion of culture is your employees. Even now, when I'm seeing, and again, I don't know the back end of it. It's what we are seeing on LinkedIn. I've seen a lot of stuff. Some things I was just like, oh, I think it's too much. In the end, like happy hours, doing daily meetings. I think daily meetings might be a lot for various reasons. But my biggest reason is if you're doing too much right now, I understand it's a change, right? Maybe it's exciting and you want to do it in the beginning. But the thing is, when you're trying too hard to do too many things, sustainability is going to start. You're not going to be able to sustain that for a long period of time if
No,
you're doing all these
absolutely.
things too much. Second, I have friends. I have my sister has two kids, right? My friends and family, cousins, everybody has kids. So two parents working, kids. A lot of these have young kids, right? My friend has three kids. It's hard juggling. I remember what she was saying. She's like, it's hard to, right now, it's hard because schools, there's no one to have a babysitter. You're not going to tell someone to come to your house and babysit your kids, right? The whole
Yeah.
social distancing. So what are the kids supposed to do? Imagine having three, four kids.
Oh no, my two are enough. I'm good with two. I want to hit on a
Yeah, right.
couple of different points that you mentioned. One of which was around the fact that people push culture onto HR. And that is one of the reasons why culture is a frame I don't always like to talk about with client organizations for that exact reason. Because oftentimes, from clients that I've worked with in the past, when you start to talk about culture, everybody around the table on the leadership team stops even listening and they just think it's HR's responsibility and they don't understand their own responsibility. And as much as I've tried to explain it and try to work with them, they come with certain frames, and that's the reality, is that a lot of leaders frames who aren't in the people practice and aren't the CEO see culture as, oh, that's an HR thing, that's a talent thing, that's not my thing, which is a major problem. The other thing I want to tie back to also is, you were talking before about, the surface versus the culture, right? The perks, the compensation, and all of those things. And one of the things that I want to build from that, because you were absolutely dead on about everything you were saying, and I want to build on from that, is the difference between perks in culture is how long the motivation lasts. Perks, the motivation only
Absolutely.
lasts for a short time. Whereas with a great culture, the motivation and the productivity and the excitement lasts a lot longer. And if ultimately the goal from the organization's perspective of culture is to get people to want to do more work and to be better and discretionary effort and all of these things, then we're focusing on the actual depth of the culture, the way people are actually treated, has a lot more valuable impact than focusing on all of these surface things that will make person happy for 20 minutes and then get yelled at by their boss and go back to being the old way. So you're
But even
dead on
to
there. That's
add
a
on
big
to that,
difference.
but to add on to that point, right, is salary. A lot of people don't understand how salary also plays a factor in culture. If you're going to, especially if you're underpaying your employees, right? All these perks, great. You have, your office space looks luxurious. You have open space. You have open concept. Everybody's on the same floor, which I don't know how much there's research saying that stuff doesn't work. Go, which a lot of us been already saying that before the research even came.
Yeah, don't get me
That
started on open concept. Don't
open
get me started on open concept.
open concept, not a brainer that it's not going to work, right, for everybody. But regardless, like ping pong, free lunches, all that, the perks are not paying for someone's day-to-day living. The perks don't pay for someone's bills. Perks don't pay to put food on the table. A lot of companies exaggerate these perks. We're only giving you 40K. You might be valuable at 60K, but we're gonna pay you 40K. But look at what all the things we're offering you. Free membership to gym, and we do weekly yoga classes, X, Y, and Z. But a lot of companies who lowball and play below the market, You're missing a huge chunk that the person needs to commute to work, needs to put food on the table, needs to pay bills. So I've seen where employees are not happy. They come to work and everything, but I've seen this firsthand in a lot of small companies where they're underpaid. Employees know they're underpaid. If you think employee doesn't know they're underpaid, you're sadly mistaken. They are, and guess what? That's going to hinder their mood. That's not going to motivate them to produce at 100% because, well, if I'm paying 40K, which is 20K or even 10K below the market, why am I producing so much work for you?
Well, it comes to how are you valued, right? The
Yeah,
salary
they're
is
not
one
valued.
aspect of, do you value me? Do you value my time? Do you value my skills? So salary absolutely would be a major aspect of that because, you know, these perks, it's not about the perk. If you're going to underpay a person 20,000 and only give them $3,000 worth of perks, well, then you're just you're underpaying them by
But the
$17,000.
thing is, perks, a lot of companies emphasize so much on like perks and doing all these different events. But what everybody fails to understand is this is not making your employees happy. You
No.
can have zero events and you can have amazing workforce because you treat your employees good. Okay. You, first of all, let's talk about you paying them good. Then you're treating them, meaning if I, for example, my dad died, if I needed now a month off, no questions were asked. If I'm late to work, no questions are asked because I stay late. Right? The autonomy to have that flexibility. If I am sick, you're not now hunting me down for a doctor's note. This stuff matters. Not telling me, oh, our company policy is this, right? These things matter. It doesn't matter how much perk you have. In the end of the day, it's all about treating your employees, how you treat them, how managers treating their employees, how everyone's treating the employees. Are you sympathetic towards situations, or do you trust your employees? Because when you're asking for a doctor's note, you're not trusting your employees. Even as HR, I remember this one scenario, and a lot of my roles I worked long hours. Okay, so I was sick. I needed to take. I ended up becoming sick, so I ended up taking a week off. My boss didn't say anything, but I also had a dotted line to a director of operations. He had an issue. He had an issue that I'm sick for a whole weekend. He wanted a doctor's note. Boom, boom, boom. He wanted all this thing, and I was like, sure, but I was like, wait, my boss is not asking, you're asking. That's fine. I produced a doctor's note. But what I was left with for a whole week or 2 weeks, I had so much respect for him. But my respect for him now just degraded because I'm like, I'm sorry, you didn't see all the hours I stay back? The hours I work when you leave? First of all, you show up to work every day late. I like that about him. He didn't care what time we showed up, as long as we showed up.
Yeah.
But if you didn't show up, he had a problem, even if you're sick. So like these little things.
That was going back to what I was saying, is that was the value he showed on all of these extra hours you put in the value he showed on that, and the trust that he showed on that, in ultimately how much discretionary effort, how much effort were you going to put in the next time that he asked you to do something? Because even beyond what you were saying, you know, and it's important, and I understand happiness is important.
I forgot to mention, though I was sick, I still worked from home. I just wasn't physically present because I didn't feel the need to spread my germs, right? Like how
and you did the right thing.
But that we tell employees stay home if you're sick, but then we also have a problem when they do stay home. Like, why aren't you at work? So like that whole second undermining the employees, double standards, right? Like
culture
even
right there, in
exactly.
him being allowed to do that by other people, by his leadership, being allowed to do that and being promoted to that position promotes that into the culture. But I also want to add that, you know, you were saying before about happiness, and sure, there is an aspect of organizations want their people to be happy, but don't they want them to be engaged and retained? Isn't that really, you know, we want them to be productive and around, and that's what serves the organization by having a great culture. Any questions you're looking at?
Yes, having to dress business casual, corporate affect one's choice in assessing the work culture and choosing prospective companies to work for. How can one affect such changes when the company already has a work culture and not being tagged out, not a good fit? Oh, interesting question. Dress code. Um, See, I have a different viewpoint on dress code. I think, in the end of the day, I think I've seen, my viewpoint is this, it depends on your business. Like when I ran my dad's businesses, I didn't care how the employees dressed on one side of the business. Then we had a salon. Yeah, I care. I cared how you dress, right? Because that's a beauty industry. So I
Mhm.
think it depends on your the work you're doing, the work environment. But I also think that I've seen companies who had such a relaxed. I have two clients previously who had such a relaxed dress code. Like I mean, relaxed. I meant like it was very relaxed. Then all of a sudden they wanted to do this polished look, and they wanted to be corporate. So imagine running for many years, relax, and then all of a sudden you want to have this corporate image. And why? Why are you looking to do, like, I need to understand first before you can go sell something to employees. You need to understand, why do you want this? Sometimes, companies get too focused on, well, we want the corporate look. Corporate look can just be when you have clients coming into office, you all dress up, and then the rest of the days you can be like, I worked for a company where we had dress down days or business casuals, where Friday was business casual, meaning you can wear jeans, but you had to have a dress shirt on. Or it was just casual period. You can wear jeans every day, but business casual was also fine. You can be a little bit casual, like wear jeans, but you need to wear a dress shirt. Like you dress it up a little bit. So that's a good question. If a company already has a culture, yeah, you can't go into a company that has a culture and expect you can change it, because you need to also determine what's the right fit for you as a culture wise. But company dress code is where it depends on the company. I think it's you got to abide by what the company thinks. But hey, if you need to do a change, you can start again. I'll always come back to, it's what the employees want. When you have employees working for you, it's a give and take. You have to, if you wanted to adopt a corporate look, but your employees don't want to, is it really worth it? Do I do 50-50? How about we do a couple of days corporate look and then maybe 2 days dress down day? Or how about it's casual, business casual? We want to go for, okay, let's go with business casual. So it's half half. But when we have clients or customers coming in, client meetings, customers or banks coming in, put some guidelines. Then we expect our staff, but we'll give you notice to do this. And I think like shifting from very casual to going to corporate is also an expense to employees. And
Absolutely.
that was one of the things I was telling my clients. Listen, you're making a big shift, right? The employees have been working with you for X amount of years. Now they have to go invest money to buy, because they don't have. And I had employees tell me, well, we don't have corporate clothing.
Why would they? It makes
Now
sense.
we
Why,
have
why,
to
why
go
would they?
and now we have to go buy it. And well, guess what? I'm also being underpaid.
Yeah. And now you'll see, to tie it back to what's going on now, some organizations, when they're sending their remote, their workforce home, they're giving them money to buy the tools they need. That they're not just saying,
Yeah.
well, you're stuck with whatever chair you have, you're stuck. They still care about the ergonomics. And that is a cultural decision. They're saying, hey, we will put resources into the care of our people. We're not just going to throw them to the wolves, and whatever you have at home, you have at home. That's it. On the culture side, in terms of interviewing, I would say, and I'm sure you teach a lot of great things around this, around when you're talking about hiring practices and people looking for jobs, is that they have to find the right culture for them, right? They have to know what are the must-haves and nice-to-haves within a culture when you're hiring. These are among the questions to be asking at the end of that interview when you're asked, do you have any questions? Well, I want to know, how are people treated? How are people included? How are decisions made? Because then you can know whether or not, okay, is this a right fit for me as an organization, or should I find somewhere else that makes more sense for me?
Yeah, no, that's exactly where you, as a candidate, you need to be assessing is the questions, dress code or casual, like that's your time to assess, but you can mold yourself to fit into a company's culture. You still need to be you. You still need to be the type of culture you want to work for. I think a lot of candidates on that aspect don't understand how important asking questions is, and it's also about determining the fit of what works for you. But to sum up, we have a few more minutes, but we're just going to sum up our points of view of what to do or not to do. My biggest points would be number one, you need to ask your employees. Don't do anything right now without talking to your employees, because let's be honest, it's a huge change right now. A lot of us are going through it. Everyone's situation is different. I'm single, I don't have kids, so it doesn't matter, right? But my colleague can have kids, and I then you need to be flexible to work around their schedule. I think the biggest thing is also being flexible. I think what employees need to do, what you need to do is ask your employees, ask them what they need. Do they need the one-on-one meetings? Do they need to be daily? Do they want the daily meetings? I don't know. I think that's excessive because I work really well independently too, right? But maybe somebody needs that FaceTime. But so I think anything before you implement anything, ask your employees, what do they want right now? What do they want to do? What do they need? And what support they need? That will help you a little bit put a framework on we all going through changes. We're all like a little bit like, oh my God, but then we're, oh, okay, let's do this, right? It's something different. Even I'm excited. I was doing so much last week, but then I cut a couple of things off my plate because it became too much, right? So I'm speaking from experience. You can be doing a lot, but then the reality is how much can you sustain? And you don't want the employee to feel like a burden. You don't want the employee to feel this whole thing to be a burden where they have to show up every day at X amount of time. They have to have a lunch with you. Somebody said that, because employees were having lunch, but let your employees decide what they want to do. Do they want to use the lunchtime to spend with their family? Because we're home, right? I would like, if I'm working from, I like to, I don't think I want to have lunch with my coworkers, maybe once or twice, but I think I would also like spending time because I never got to have lunch with my family because we're at work. So you don't know that. You don't need to build the same work environment right now. I think you need to chill, relax, and let your employees dictate what they need. I think that's, to me, I think that's what's really important right now. Let your employees tell communication, talk to them, but don't go overboard. You're just gonna crash and fail. If you start doing too much, you got to look at sustainability because none of us know how long is this gonna be. From what I hear, this might be going up to summer. Who knows, right?
And you don't want to overwhelm people who are already overwhelmed with enough stimuli, enough stress. You don't want to overwhelm them. And I think, you hit the key points. It's really about professional empathy, understand where they're coming from, understand what they need, and being flexible and adjusting accordingly. It's as you said, those are the two things. Listen, adjust, and help people know that they're cared about.
Exactly.
That they're cared about as a person. Everything else flows so much more easily from there. Once you start with the fact that there's another human being on the other end of this computer screen, it makes life easier from there.
Yeah. So as both of us saying, in the end, it's listen to your employees, talk to your employees, ask them what they need, and lead with compassion and empathy. I think as we end our discussions every day, it always comes down to communication, compassion, and empathy. I think that is what actually anything stems from all of this, right? Communication, empathy, compassion, your culture, your employee experience, how you treat your employees, how you your day-to-day operation. And I think more than ever we need to exhibit this, and it's nice to hear some great stories out there where leaders are exhibiting this and employees are exhibiting this. So it's a great to hear all these stories. So let's keep the stories going, and we're here to support you guys in any way we can. So our segment is GNG's LinkedIn Live segment. We're going to be dedicating this every day at 12:30 for at least 30 minutes, as long as technology is working with us. I know we're having technology difficulty today too. Again, that's out of our control. It's everyone's working from home. There's a lot of internet load being put on. So we're dedicated. If there's a topic you want us to cover, please feel free to reach out to Gil on LinkedIn or reach out to me or write a comment on our post, and we'll be happy to cover any topics you guys want. Tomorrow we'll be doing employee engagement, right, Gil? Right?
Employee appreciation. I thought we were talking employee
Yeah,
appreciation.
employee appreciation.
Yeah.
So tomorrow's topic is stemming from company culture. We're going to take it to the next level, and we're going to talk about employee appreciation. So tune in tomorrow at 12:30. We'll be live again on LinkedIn. And until then, keep safe, listen to your employees, and do what they need you to do, and provide the support they need. And we will see you guys tomorrow, same time, 12:30. Bye.
Thanks all.